Hello, sister girl. Welcome back to a Transforming Life podcast where you awaken your spirit, renew your mind, and transform your life. I am your host, Pamela Smith, and today we are going to be diving into something that a lot of people try to avoid. You don't need a new life, you need a new mind. And so let's get busy. It is the very thing, transforming your mind, that determines the quality of your life. Transforming your mind involves inner transformation. You can change your environment, you can change your relationships, you can change how you look, but if you do not change what is happening within you, you will keep repeating the same cycles. Transformation is lasting. That's what we desire, our transformation to be lasting transformation. We don't want to just change things on the surface. We don't want to just change things on the outside and not change it on the inside. Inner work matters so tremendously. It's not optional. It's foundational. Many people are, like I said, are focused on the external results. We're busy looking at everybody else, how everything else is looking. We're conforming to the patterns of this world. And the inner work, once we decide and understand it, will yield better outer results. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Positive thoughts foster health, while negative thoughts, obsessive thinking, can physically impair your well being. So, when we talk about the inner work, we talk about what has God put on the inside of us? How do we take an introspective look at what we're doing, what we're believing? How are we responding? We're always wanting to better results, but we are not doing the work that requires us to have a better life. We want a better life, but we're busy looking at everybody else's life. We want more peace, but we're causing chaos and confusion around us, right? But then we're saying we want peace. We want to be fulfilled. But to me, fulfillment is not just about what money can buy. A lot of people are stuck on how much money you have, what can you buy, everything, how it looks on the outside. And don't get me wrong, money is necessary. It is a necessary thing. But having all the money in the world is not what fulfills you. It's the things that money can't buy, like the peace that you get from the inner man that doesn't even make sense in the midst of chaos. Those are things money can't buy. That's what feeling fulfilled is all about. The joy unspeakable and full of glory. The joy that in the midst of your situation, you can still shout hallelujah. You can still rejoice because it doesn't matter what it looks like, right? So when we look at what keeps us stuck, let's talk honestly. Let's be transparent. People don't stay stuck because they want to. Most people don't want to stay stuck. They stay stuck because we haven't confronted what's in front of us. We haven't identified and we haven't been real and authentic with what's really bothering us, what's really keeping us stuck, right? We avoid the truth. We don't look in the mirror because we're too busy. We're pointing fingers and we're not looking at the three fingers that are pointing back at us. We're not being truly authentic with ourselves. And if we really were, we would have to take a step back and say, maybe the way I'm doing this is not benefiting me. Maybe the way I respond is not the best way to respond. Maybe my unbelief is what's keeping me bound. So when we look at those patterns, we look at avoidance. Well, whoever conceals their sin does not prosper. The word of God says that. When we cover up what we're doing, when we don't face it, and a lot of times, and I've been there, guilty, we don't want to, if we don't confess it, it doesn't exist. And so that's what avoidance does. And then there's fear of change. Oh my goodness. And if I could tell you, that has been, we're comfortable being where we are, even when we're unhappy. We stay in familiar cycles because it feels safe. You've heard it said, I'd rather deal with the devil I know than the devil that I don't know, right? That is crazy to me. Why do we want to deal with any devil? How about let's get free? Okay. We also deal with identity attachment. We stay loyal to the old versions of ourselves and emotional strongholds like bitterness, shame, and rejection that quietly control our decisions. And let me tell you, I don't think there's a single person within the sound of my voice that has not dealt with some kind of emotional rejection, emotional frustration. I can assure you, for me, emotionally, it's been a detachment from my mother, which is, kind of deep. But if we're being authentic, I can tell you truly that that was an emotional stronghold for me. I was bitter, at 16, 17, my parents divorced, and I was devastated, devastated. And I started acting out, and so I was hanging out with my friends, running away from home, and just all kinds of things. But my mother left. My parents divorced. My mother left. And I moved to New York with my aunt, bless her heart. And she took care of me. She helped guide me and lead me, through those somewhat formative years. But it wasn't until I got old when you start to look at the patterns that you go through. Behind every what, there is a why. When you understand strongholds. So as I got older and I started identifying these things, I started coming face to face with, why was Pam doing this? And why did I respond like this? And why did I feel such rejection? Because I felt rejection from my mother. My mother left, and for a couple of years, me and my brother didn't know how to contact her. She would keep in touch when she felt like it. And so that built up as I got older into adulthood, that built up a bitterness and a frustration, an anger, and an unforgiveness. And I recognized I was probably in my 40s when I recognized this, and I had to confront it. So this is part of your transformation, is confronting those patterns that bind you and that keep you. And so I confronted it. I had a conversation with my mother about it. She didn't receive it well, but guess what? Her response was not my responsibility. It was my responsibility to deal with my emotional pain. And so I had to forgive her. I had to forgive her because what I felt like I was being shown is she did what she could with what she knew. And so once that forgiveness comes in, then the bitterness breaks. So you have to break those chains that bind you, that keep you in places of defeat and not being able to move forward. Whom the sun sets free is free indeed. And in order to move forward with your transformation, you have to be set free. And so while today my relationship isn't the way I want it to be, I can confront my mother. I can speak to my mother. I can call my mother. I can pray for my mother. I can, there's a relationship to the best that it can be a relationship, but there's no bitterness, there's no unforgiveness, and there's no rejection. And so there are patterns that keep us in cycles, right? And it's the patterns that we keep repeating, right? That's why they're called patterns. We keep repeating them. And these include things like negative thoughts, self sabotage, where you pray for change, you want change, you're praying for change, but you act in the ways that are contrary to what you believe in. You're seeking external validation and you're choosing comfort over growth. You are responsible for your growth. Nobody can do it for you. Just like nobody can walk out your salvation, you have to walk out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And so there are things that are required of you to break those patterns, to break that cycle, to get out of your comfort zone. I sit before you right now, today, sitting outside of my comfort zone. This is not something I would have chosen, but I know there's a bigger mission behind it. And so, because I love the Lord so much, I step out of my comfort zone. And because there's an impact. And so, that's what growth requires us. We can't be comfortable with the way things are. If you want to go beyond mundane and ordinary, you have to grow. If you want to get beyond being stuck and being unfulfilled, you have to grow. And so it is your responsibility, just like you have to recognize, and then you have to begin to grow. You have to do the work that's required to get you to another level. And so once we do that, then inner transformation starts to produce some things. It first requires us to surrender. Once we surrender to the inner man, something that's on the inside of us, you may not know it, and you may know it, and you may have known it, but you're running from it. Once you surrender to that inner man, everything starts to change. I'm a witness to it. You'll start to experience emotional shifts, the joy, unexplained joy in the midst of chaos. When we look at everything that's going on in the world, my goodness, I could still rejoice. Increased intuition, your spirit, your inner man starts to recognize things a little differently. You start to grow a little differently. You start to discern things a little differently, right? You start to know when you need to speak and when you don't need to speak, when you need to move and when you don't need to move. And it reduces your reactivity to life's challenges. And what I mean by that is you're not led with your emotions. We're not led by what we see, because we know that the inner man that's on the inside of us, we know that God is in control, and we know that because he gives us a peace and because he is walks with us, that we know that there is nothing too hard for him. And when we recognize that he lives on the inside of us, then we recognize that we don't get consumed by the things of this world. The word says to not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. The renewing of our minds helps us know who's in control. The renewing of our mind helps us know that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. The renewing of our mind helps us to know that he is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And so we know that he's always with us, and there's nothing that can shake us. Do we go through challenges? Absolutely. But how we handle those challenges once our inner man is transformed is different. It's a reduced reactivity. We respond differently. All of these changes produce clarity, emotional freedom, where you are no longer controlled by your past. When I recognized and understood that emotional bondage, I'm no longer controlled by what my mother did or didn't do. Discipline and a peace that is not based on circumstances but rooted within. These are some of the things that you receive. This is what you receive when your inner man is transformed. You receive a discipline. There are days in the last year and a half, I'm going to be honest, I've gone through this journey of transformation, right? You never fully arrive because we're always changing. But I went through a transformation, but only in the last year and a half has it really settled in my spirit, where I really understood. And now I'm starting to see the manifestation of that transformation: discipline, peace, joy. Because as you grow in your inner man, then you know that there are times it becomes like it's not a task. It doesn't seem like it's overwhelming anymore, because as you start to live a transformed life, you start to do those things without even thinking about it, right? The discipline that says, okay, let me impart some wisdom in my spirit this morning. Instead of getting on the phone, let me get in the word. Let me listen to some positive affirmations. Let me do positive affirmations. Let me put things in my spirit that are going to keep me walking in the spirit, that are going to help me elevate and grow. Discipline is a key thing in it. And for me, I'm not going to lie, I have been undisciplined for so long. And I'm being transparent. But I can say that as I have started to transform, the discipline becomes easier and better. And it's like clockwork. You don't even have to think about it. Every morning I get up, I spend time in his presence every morning, every morning. And there are some mornings where your schedule might be, but at some point throughout that day, I'm going into the throne room. Okay. I got to spend time with God because he gives me that peace. He gives me that understanding. And as I continue to walk with him, then he continues to open up and reveal more of not only who I am, but who he is and who I am in him. And so discipline and peace is not based on circumstances, but it is rooted within. And so if you are feeling stuck right now, it is absolutely okay. It is absolutely not the end of your story. The steps you need to take are look within, be honest, do the work, and let God transform you from the inside out. Because, like I've said, and you'll hear me say it over and over and over again, real transformation is not about becoming somebody else. It's about becoming who God already created you to be. And so, if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs this message and subscribe. And also take a moment today to allow God to show you what needs to change within you. Until next time, be blessed.